Okay, let's talk about multiplication. And one of the best multiplication hacks, shortcuts, or approaches to do multiplication there is. Now, this little word here, hack, this kind of, it's a nice word to kind of pull you into this video. Be like, oh, it's, a kind of a shortcut or some sort of way to do multiplication other than the standard way of doing multiplication. Yes, you can kind of think of it in that manner, but I want you to think about what I'm going to be talking about here in a second as something. This is not like an optional thing that, yeah, well, if I don't know this, I can always fall back on, my regular multiplication. Yes, you need to know how to do your regular arithmetic, but what I'm going to be talking about is a principle that goes beyond just doing multiplication with numbers. Okay, this is extremely important principle in algebra and beyond, and you really have to understand it. And I think the best way to get the big picture on this is to understand its application in multiplication. So I'm going to make my case for this. Of course, I got to title this video differently. And I said, well, we're going to learn this principle, but I think that would have been kind of boring because these words, hack, shortcuts and stuff, those are kind of exciting words. They're like, wow, this is one of the best multiplication hacks. And indeed, it is. Okay, so I'm going to try not to disappoint you if you spend a few minutes with me. And we'll tackle this problem a few different ways. And then, of course, I'm going to make a bigger point here how important this concept is in mathematics. So you're going to want to stick around for this. But first, let me go ahead and quickly introduce myself. My name is John. I'm the founder of TabletClass Math. I'm also a middle and high school math teacher, and over several years, I've constructed what I like to believe is one of the best online math help programs there is. Of course, I'll let you be the judge of that. If you're interested, you can find a link to my math help program in the description of this video. But basically, I offer 100 plus different type of math courses. So the standard courses, Algebra 1, Geometry, all that kind of good stuff I offer. So if you need to take those courses, and a lot of people do, take my full course curriculum in terms of, replacing, going to school, for example, it's kind of independent study, homeschooling, or we even have school students that use my program. But if you're in a class right now and you're struggling in a particular course, let's say you're taking algebra and you're struggling with it, you could still use my program to supplement and get a lot of instruction. Okay, I teach you how to solve thousands of problems. Literally the most common problems you're going to encounter in middle and high school math and even basic college math. And also, I do a lot of specialty courses like test prep courses. So if you're preparing for the SAT, ACT, GED, teacher certification course, college placement, whatever the case is, I likely have that type of test. So anyways, very robust program. You can find a link again to it in the description of this video. Now, if you are a math student, and I kind of assume that you are, if you're watching this video, I just must stress to you very briefly, over decades of teaching math, my golden rule of mathematics, and that is those students with the best math notes almost always have the best math grades, and those students who don't take math notes, because it's not important, it's more important to be on your cell phone or outsource your note taking to your best friend who has far better handwriting, just much more neater, and you use their notes instead of you taking your notes. Well, you're going to pay a price for doing that. Okay, I've made all these mistakes as a young student myself. You have to take great math notes. The better your math notes are, the better you're going to do in math, period, point blank. Okay, so improve on note taking if that is your situation. But in the meantime, you need something to study from. So I offer detailed comprehensive math notes to include pre-algebra, algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, and trigonometry. You can find links to those notes in the description of this video as well. Okay, so let's get into multiplication, everyone's favorite topic. And let's talk about this problem here. 15 times 630, that's a pretty simple problem. Okay, so how do we do this problem? Well, there's just good old-fashioned arithmetic, right? So remember this right here, like in the third grade, fourth grade, whenever we learned this, okay? That's too many decades ago for me to remember, but I'm grateful to my elementary teachers, primary school teachers that taught me this, right? Because this is like a procedure. We learn arithmetic. It's so critical. Okay, so when you think back on your math journey, okay, or maybe you're a parent, or maybe you're struggling in math, arithmetic is critical. Okay, so knowing how to do division, multiplication by hand, all that stuff, we still, we have to still use that. Even if you're studying algebra or beyond, you still have to have strong arithmetic, memory, all right? Because we don't use arithmetic on a daily basis. What do we use? We use this guy over here, everyone's favorite tool, which is our calculator. And we can find a calculator on our cell phone or pull one up on our computer. You know, of course, if you're taking a math class, an algebra course, you probably have to have a scientific calculator or a graphing calculator. So yeah, these are tools, okay, and we should use these tools, right? It doesn't, we don't need to do everything by hand. We should use these tools. But what happens is the more we use these calculators or whatnot, the less we practice arithmetic. And then, one day we kind of like, how do I do that again? How do I do division of decimals again? Oh, I forgot. I don't need to remember that. I'll do this. Now, again, a bigger point I'm making is you don't want to dismiss how important arithmetic is. All right, so anyways, we have 630 times 15. We can approach that problem like this using our old school arithmetic knowledge. Now, I use a little X down here as a placeholder. Maybe you use a 0. However you were taught how to do this, you should get the answer 9,450. Okay, so we're not going to be using the calculator here. That's not what we're going to be talking about. And you'll see why here in a second. Calculators aren't going to help us out in certain situations when I make my broader point here on this principle. Okay, so you should, just check yourself real quick that you can take 630 times 15 and you get the answer 9,450. If you're pretty comfortable with that, you're like, okay, yep, I could do that problem. And this is a good approach, all right? So this thing that I'm going to be teaching you here, this hack, is another way to do multiplication, all right? But it's a very, very important way. You need to know how to do multiplication in a different way, okay? So the first way of doing multiplication is what I just showed you here, okay? What we kind of learned back in the 3rd or 4th grade. Now, here, we're going to take a look at the same problem. We have 15 times 630. Now, in mathematics, we can write 15 times 630. We can use this multiplication operator, this little x. We can also use this little dot thing like this, 15 times 630, or we can use this notation, just put 15 times 630 in parentheses. Okay, so I want to be using this notation, but they all mean multiplication, means find the product between these two numbers. Now, let me now go ahead and introduce the hack, the shortcut, what everyone has been waiting for in this video. So what is this? Now this thing has a name. I'm not going to tell you its name just quite yet, but what we're going to do is just follow the pattern of how it works, and then I'll tell you the name, but then I'm going to emphasize why it's so critical. All right, so let's take 2 times 15. I'm going to come back and do this other problem here in a second, but let's just introduce this concept with easy numbers. So 2 times 15, hopefully you're like, yep, that's 15. All right, or sorry, 30. All right, 2 times 15 is 30. Now mentally, what are you doing here? Okay, in our mind's eye, you might be like, 15, 2 times 15, you might be in your brain going, 15 plus 15, oh, that's 30. So we're probably mentally calculating this out some sort of different way. But we kind of intuitively, most people would be able to, do some mental math and say, okay, 2 times 15 is 30. Now, here is how we can do this differently. This is multiplication. Here is the hack. Here's the trick. So we have 15. Let's break 15 up. Let's rewrite 15 differently. Okay, now how can I express 15 differently? There's a number of different ways we can do this. Okay, infinitely many different, well, I don't know about infinitely many ways, but here's the thing. Let's take 15 and write 15 as 10 plus 5. Okay, so 10 plus 5 is the same thing as 15, right? So 10 plus 5 is 15. So we're going to express this problem here, 2 times 15, this way. We're going to write this as 2 times 10 plus 5, which of course is 15. Now remember, when you're doing an order of operations, we have to do what's inside the parentheses first, and then then we can start working on the outside of the parentheses. So 10 plus 5 is 15. So this problem is equivalent. All right, so hopefully everyone sees that. But what is my point? What's the point of doing this? Well, I'm going to show you, okay? So we have 2 times 10 plus 15. There's a property, okay? In mathematics, it's this hack thing I'm talking about that we can state the following. We could say 2 times 10, all right, which of course is right here. I have that right there, 2 times 10, plus, this is an addition problem, 2 times 5, which is right there, okay, is equivalent to doing this multiplication problem right there, okay? So this is another way to do multiplication. If I do these little sub-steps, I'm going to get the same answer as 2 times 15. So let's just check that real quick. So 2 times 10 is 20, plus 2 times 5 is 10. 20 plus 10 is, in fact, 30. Okay? So we just did this multiplication problem, 2 times 15, but we did this differently. We expressed it as 2 times 10 plus 5, okay? And we use this property, this hack. Okay, so the idea is whatever you're multiplying by, okay, you can break this up into sums and differences, all right, and then we can go ahead and use this kind of little procedure here. Now, of course, I'm going to give you the technical name for this in a second, but let's do the same problem a few other ways. So we're going to do 2 times 15, but this time 15, I'm going to think of 15 as 20 minus 5, right? I'm just going to reinforce this concept to you. So 20 minus 5 is the same thing as 15. So, of course, we know that 2 times 15 is 30. So let's go ahead and apply this principle. So 2 times 20 is right here, 2 times 20. Now, this is a subtraction, okay? And we have 2 times 5 right here, right? So I could break up these numbers right here as the sum of two different numbers, like 10 plus 5, or the difference of two numbers, okay? Both of these numbers get me to 15, all right? So it doesn't make a difference, so I'm just going to follow the same procedure. So 2 times 20 is 40, and of course 2 times 5 is 10. 40 minus 10 is 30, all right? So we're like, okay, yeah, you're making my point. Here, it's like, hey, we can do the problem 2 times 15 in a number of different ways. Let's do it one more different ways just for me to really drive this point home. And we'll do 15 as 5 plus 5 plus 5. 5 plus 5 plus 5 is 15. So I can break up this number, okay, into as many different sums or differences as I want. Okay, I could be as creative as possible. So I can go 2 times 5 times this 2 times 5 plus this 2 times 5, and I'm going to be adding, okay? So that's going to be 2 times 5 plus 2 times 5 plus 2 times 5, and of course 2 times 5 here is 10 plus 10 plus 10, and all these 10s together is 30. Okay, so what's going on here? What is this hack? What is this thing that we're learning? Well, this is an illustration of the distributive property. The distributive property. Now, the distributive property typically is introduced in kind of in a serious formal way when you're studying algebra, okay? And we need the distributive property absolutely when we do algebra, but it has applications in arithmetic, okay? And it's basically the distributive property. These are illustrations of it, and I can give you a more formal definition of it. Okay, we're going to do our problem here in a second, but it would be A plus B plus C is equal to AB plus AC. Now, that's not that exciting to look at, and you're like, it doesn't really have any meaning. But when we start doing arithmetic problems in different ways using the distributive property, it becomes more exciting. And so this is very important. Just remember, think of your situation right now as you don't have a calculator. Okay, we need tools to help us, do some of the arithmetic. Yeah, kind of like a backup system, if you will, right? Like if I forgot how to do arithmetic, how can I do these problems using some different techniques? Well, the distributive property is critical. It's another way to do multiplication. So let's go back to this problem that we did originally. So we have 15 times 630. So how can we approach this? Well, there's a case to be made that, hey, it's just easier to do the regular arithmetic like this, 630 times 15, and I do that problem and I'm done. Yes, that's true. I'm not going to argue that point, but this is the knowing how to do a multiplication problem in a different way could be beneficial to you, because sometimes when you're doing your standard arithmetic procedure, that can get very complex as well. It might be better off to do it in this manner. So let's go ahead and take a look at what I did here. So 15 times 630, what's the thing that we want to do? Well, I want to take 630 and break it up into more manageable pieces, things that I can say, all right, 630, and there's any number of different ways I can think of 630, but I'm going to think of it for the purpose of this example as 400 plus 200. Of course, that's 600, and then 30. So 400 plus 200 plus 300, all together, this is 630. So 15 times the sum of these three numbers is the same thing as 15 times 630, because this is 630. Now I'm going to go ahead and apply my hack, my little shortcut, which is the distributive property. So I'm going to go, it's going to be 15 times 400 plus 15 times 200 plus 15 times 30. Of course, we could write it out like so. Okay. Now, hopefully, when you look at a problem like this, 15 times 400, hopefully in your brain you're thinking, oh, 15 times 400, that's like 15 times 4, and that's like, 15 times 2 is 30. So hopefully in your brain you're like, oh, that's 60. All right, so this must be 6,000, right? So hopefully you've gotten pretty good with just basic estimation or basic, multiplication when there's, zeros involved, right? So yeah, you could do this problem by hand. And I'm not saying this is necessarily easier, but it's something you need to know, okay? But let's just say right now you can see, 15 times 400 is going to be the same as 6,000. It's pretty easy to tell, okay, because your mind's thinking like this. And then we have 15 times 2, or 200. You're like, oh, that's 3,000. Okay, so we can quickly get the product of these numbers. And then 15 times 30 is, you're thinking 15 times 3. So that's 15 on 15. That's 30 plus another 15 is 45. So that's 450. So if you can mentally, calculate that out, you could just, do this really fast and be like, all right, 6,000, 3,000, that's 9,000 plus the 450, that's 9,450. And of course, that's the answer that we got previously. Now, I'm not saying necessarily that this is easier than doing the other, basic arithmetic approach. However, it's absolutely necessary that you understand that you can do multiplication this way, because in algebra, we need the distributive property. We would be lost without the distributive property. So you can't do something like this, okay? Now I'm going to show you this right here, okay? This is a multiplication situation. We have 2 being multiplied by this, and in this example, we have 3 being multiplied by this. There's no such thing as me going, x plus 10 times 2, right? I'm like, if I have like 670 times 13, this is like, my arithmetic. Okay, I'm going to approach this way, and I'm going to have 3 times 0, it's 0, it's 21, da, 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 da. Listen, when you have an algebraic situation, you cannot do this. This isn't going to help you out. We would be pretty much lost. So we need that other way of doing multiplication. We need the distributive property. This is going to be the key to unlock the door. So now, how do we do this? Well, it's the same way. Okay, we have a sum, right? Now, x plus 10, x represents some number, but we don't know what that number is. We don't really care what that number is. All I know is that I can write this multiplication situation, this product, as in the following way. This would be 2 times x plus 2 times 10, which of course is 20. Okay, so what we want to do in algebra is take expressions like this and write them like this, because now we have freed up, liberated these terms. Okay, now I can do something with 2x and 20. This is a number in and of itself, and this is an algebraic term in and of itself. Here, when I have this 2 outside of this x and this 10, I can't do anything with that. So I have to apply the distributive property, which is another way of doing multiplication. Now I can start moving these terms and numbers around. So let's go ahead and just see this again with this problem. So 3 times, matter of fact, maybe you want to pause the video and try this. This will be what? 3 times 4y, okay, which of course would be 12y minus 3 times 5, which is 15, okay? So the distributive property is so critically important in mathematics and in algebra. And it's one of these areas that students tend to make a lot of mistakes in for whatever reasons. And the mistakes that I've seen quite frequently through the years would be 3 times. Let's say a student was like, okay, I know I need to do the distributive property here. Okay, but they'll do something like this: 3 times 4y, 12y minus 5. For whatever reason, a lot of students, they'll do the first part of the distributive property, but they'll forget the second part. This is a very common mistake that I've seen through the years, and I don't know why a lot of students do that, but I'm sure I did this plenty of times way back in the early 80s when I was learning this stuff, okay? And those were the good old days where there wasn't any cell phones to distract you. But believe me when I tell you, we were just like the students of today. We found other ways to be distracted. And I'm sure I was quite distracted in school because my my grades reflected it. It wasn't until I got more serious about my education that I kind of, figured out what I tell you in this video. It's like, listen, you got to take notes. You got to really work hard at, doing well in math. But everyone can do great in math. Okay, it's just about, some people have better math aptitudes than others. Listen, we're all better at some things, than, some people got musical talent. I have no musical talent. Some people have writing talent. Some people have more mathematical aptitudes. But it doesn't make it, even if you don't, like math or you don't feel like you have an aptitude for it, if you take great notes, pay attention, have a teacher that explains things in a clear and understandable way and work hard at it, you can do very well in math. And that's a subject that you should be doing well because it's so critically important. Okay, so hopefully this video is worth your time. I know from a math, teacher perspective that it's will. If I can drive this point home, the distributive property, how important it is, why we need it, then you know what? It's going to pay you dividends in the future. All right, so with that being said, please consider smashing that like button if you enjoyed the video. And if you're not a subscriber to my channel, please consider subscribing. I've already been on YouTube for 10 plus years. It's great platforms for someone like myself who's obsessed with teaching math. So if you go on my channel, I have a lot of different playlists, basic math to advanced math. So, it's organized in pre-algebra, geometry playlist. But if you really want my best math help, check out the links in the description of this video. All right, so with that being said, I definitely wish you all the best in your mathematics adventures. Thank you for your time, and have a great day.